For the channel partners, it's really an interesting time because like the print industry is changing and customers are changing. So it's a lot about now understanding the security aspects. For example, looking at universal print ready printers and how those can sit in the environment for their customers with zero trust configuration and enabling flexibility with hybrid and remote printing.
Hello and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Louella CEO of Quocirca, and this series is brought to you in collaboration with Microsoft Universal Print. Today I'm joined by Issa Khoury from Microsoft, and we'll be hearing about the latest updates to Microsoft Universal Print. So welcome to the show, Issa.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you so much, Louella.
So just for those who aren't familiar with you or your role at Microsoft, could you tell us briefly about your role?
Yeah, I lead the product management team for the print in a group we call Core OS, which is part of Azure. And we are part of an engineering team. Specifically, I'm a product manager.
There's been a lot of changes to Microsoft Universal Print over the past few years, and it's really evolving from a core print management solution, isn't it, to becoming that core component of potentially the modern workplace. Just curious as to how it's really fitting into the broader Microsoft 365 ecosystem and really what the strategy is around Universal Print at the moment.
Yeah, so Universal Print comes with Microsoft 365 and works closely with the suite of applications in Microsoft 365. Obviously, it enables Windows users to print, but from all Windows devices and different Windows. For example, Windows on ARM, and a lot of Copilot PCs are ARM-based. So Windows on ARM is super important, and Universal Print allows users to easily print without having to have a custom driver installed on the Windows on ARM machine. Also, Windows 365, which is part of the cloud PC, and Azure Virtual Desktop. So all of this, it enables users in the enterprise to print from all these Windows devices.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask you about Windows on ARM, because I guess that's been quite a significant change recently, hasn't it, with the growth of AI PCs? Is that something that you're seeing in terms of customer demand? And that's what's been driving Universal Print to provide seamless printing for those devices?
Of course, ARM provides a lot of benefit in terms of performance and battery life and so on. And so the simplicity of it and the experience is great. But because it's ARM-based and the old custom drivers that were built, they don't work without having to be recompiled and so on. But we're moving away from custom drivers to inbox driver, and that driver is already included on Windows on ARM. So for these devices with Universal Print, it's easy. The admin doesn't have to manage drivers, doesn't have to deploy drivers. These devices can print, and that's where the direction we're going with the industry, to move away from custom drivers. And it really shines when you think about Windows on ARM, the simplicity of it.
Yes, and I think that sort of general move from custom drivers has also been quite key to Windows protected print, and we can come on to that later. But in terms of security, I guess with customers increasingly working in a distributed environment, hybrid work and so on, how does Microsoft plan to address some of the inherent security challenges around the hybrid workplace, and how can Universal Print be central to a zero trust security strategy?
In the print team, I tell people the majority of work, if not all of the work we're doing, is centered around security and quality. Those are the biggest factors. And whether the customer is on Windows Server or the Universal Print service, it's the same direction, moving away from custom drivers and enabling the secure environment. So, but with Universal Print, there's multiple factors. It was designed from the day one for security and for security settings by default. And it leverages Enter ID for access on the user device on the PC side and on the printer So with the Enter ID certificate-based access, that also adds a layer of security. And then all the data that travels is encrypted. And the customer can also have the encryption key. So they hold the key, they can opt to have the key. And data in the cloud is stored like other Microsoft Office data in accordance to Microsoft standards. So there is a lot of layers of security there. And even the admin has granular control on who can print and to which printers they can print to. And then there's granular control for admins. There are admin roles, for example, print admin and the technician role. That this allows remote offices to be managed with enough access for the admin to perform the role they need to do. With all that, like the certificate-based and zero trust, users can print from anywhere. They can be at home and print in a secure way to their printers at work, or they can be in one office, print to another office in a secure way, without VPN, without wide area network. So it gives the flexibility and the security.
That's interesting, because one thing we see in our research is that the organizations are increasingly concerned about printing in the home environment. And, obviously there are going to be changes in the coming year with employees starting to return to the office, and, perhaps less printing will happen in the home, but there'll always be that hybrid work. And I think having something like universal print that can ensure the security of those print jobs in the home environment is quite key. And the other thing I wanted to pick up on was around secure printing or pull printing, because I know you updated universal print with those capabilities. Can you talk a bit about that as well?
Yeah, that's one of the new features we're working on. We call it Universal Print Anywhere, or it's known as pull print. But again, with Universal Print being part of Microsoft 365, we can leverage Intune. And so with pull print and Intune, the admin can deploy that single queue to users. And then now the user, when they have their PC, they don't have to add a printer. And because of also the pull print mechanism, it's like print and then go to any printer, the user now doesn't even have to select a printer when they're printing. They can just simply print and walk to any printer in their organization to retrieve the print job. And for secure release mechanism, we enabled pin release, and we enabled the QR code release with the Microsoft 365 Copilot app on the device, on the mobile phone. So the user simply walks up to the printer, scans the QR code with the camera, and they release the job. But also badge release is super important to a lot of enterprise customers. And we enable our print manufacturers and ISVs to build badge release on top of Universal Print. So that's something they deliver on top of Universal Print for their customers.
Yes, and I think that sort of close integration with the OEMs and their pull printing or secure print solutions is really key, isn't it? Because I guess you've got enterprise customers who have already got those devices in place, and they need to have a seamless solution that enables them to use universal print with their existing devices as well. So just on that point, actually, so in terms of customer adoption around universal print, because I know, I guess it was 18 months ago, maybe longer than that, Microsoft changed the licensing plan around universal print. And have you seen greater uptake as a result of the licensing and the pricing being more attractive to customers?
Yeah, it did simplify. We talked about that in the past. We went to general availability with Universal Print during the pandemic, and we had no idea about the print volumes and also on. So we were cautious. But we noticed how many print jobs each user in our organization does. And also we got the feedback from customers and partners about the model. And both of them didn't really like it. It just added complexity. And we saw we were adding complexity for no reason. So we simplified it. And with going to like 100 print jobs per user, per Microsoft 365 user per month, and it's all pooled in one single pool that like 20% of people can use 80% of the pool. So that simplified it a lot for customers and partners, especially when there's a partner with an MPS solution that comes and works with the customer. So it's much more simpler, and we're getting good feedback on that from both
Yeah, that's great. It's really great to hear that. And I think one of the other things that we see that's boosting momentum in the cloud print market is organizations are increasingly focused on sustainability. And that's actually leading to reduced print volumes in many cases because they're digitizing their processes and they're trying to get
Hmm.
better control and understanding through improved reporting around their print environments. So,
Yeah,
from Microsoft's perspective, how does Universal Print potentially
yeah.
help customers improve their environmental
Well,
goals?
I think of it as it's before printing. Thinking
Yeah.
about Microsoft 365 and all the collaboration, intelligent features in Microsoft Office, for example, and with Copilot. So combining Copilot plus all the intelligent collaboration, people do have less need to print for authoring documents, editing documents, reviewing documents, and working together to co-author and produce content and consume content. So that puts lower need to print, which is good. At the same time, we know that people have to print sometimes and for business reasons. And when they need to print, we need to provide them with a easy, secure solution to print. So that's what we come in, us and our partners. But for example, even when they have to print, we look at how we can reduce waste. And with features like pin release and the QR code secure release with mobile and badge release, all of these things reduce the waste from print jobs just sitting at the printer and also helps with privacy because you don't want some confidential content just sitting there at the printer. So hopefully people have to print less because of the capabilities they have. But when they need to print, we also will make it as efficient as possible for them. And with AI, there's a lot of opportunity there.
I think with secure printing, it's not always fully appreciated that secure printing can actually reduce waste as well, as you described. So it has that added
Mhm.
environmental benefits. And then with cloud printing, if you're less reliant on print servers, then you have lower energy costs and lower energy usage as well. So cloud printing does, no, the cloud in general can potentially help
Mhm.
lower environmental impact. Yeah, so on AI, which you just mentioned there, clearly that's exploded over the last few years and it's really
Yeah.
accelerating automation and productivity. How do you think Universal Print will support future workplace scenarios where intelligent workflows become AI driven?
What we're seeing, there are at least three different factors, three different levels. One level is looking at the printer as an IoT device and how the MPS providers, the managed print providers, can keep the uptime of the printer and manage it. You're leveraging AI. So that's just pure, the printer as an IoT. And Microsoft offers a lot of capabilities with Azure AI, the API, and so on to provide partners to create these intelligent solutions to manage the devices for customers. Then for the admin, there's a lot of potential over there also to leverage AI with the analytics so they can better manage their environment. And also just like for support, they don't want to call support. Nobody wants to call support. So being able to have an agent to ask questions about how, relating to the print environment, that also helps the admin. As the content is there, but the agent makes it much more accessible for admins. And then for the end user, of course, there's a lot of potential. With printing, like we said, it could potentially improve how the user prints, gets better outcome for them and better for the environment. But also for scan, there's a lot of opportunity there. So for scan, for example, me as a knowledge worker, sometimes I scan a document once in a while. Being able to apply some AI on top of that will help will help me. But from a workflow scan, when there's a lot of content to be scanned, that's also kind of different level because somebody might have documents just sitting there in printed form, and then they can scan them all and create some business insight out of that. And the tools are becoming easier and easier. Like, for example, in OneDrive, if you have documents there, you can easily ask Copilot relating to the content in the documents in OneDrive. Or you can just right click and create an agent there. And you start interacting with that content through the agent in OneDrive. So that's like tremendous value So now there is a reason to open those boxes and scan the content and get it to OneDrive.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because with AI, it's not just about generative AI, but actually using AI to get intelligence from those documents, as you mentioned. And we expect scan volumes to increase now as organizations accelerate their digitization initiatives and almost offset the decline in print volumes and understanding what's contained in those documents and, as you say, interrogating documents and actually integrating with other workflows is really key. And I guess Microsoft already has that intelligence with Azure and document intelligence, so you can leverage those capabilities.
Yeah, so you can see like how Universal Print and Microsoft 365 and Copilot and
Yes.
the intelligence in OneDrive and the intelligence in the PC, it all fits together.
Yeah, it's all part of that broader ecosystem. So I wanted to come back to Windows Protected Print. So we touched on the security aspect around universal print. Last year, Microsoft also announced Windows Protected Print, and that's going to have quite a big impact on legacy devices and, as you mentioned, custom drivers. So could you tell us a bit about Windows Protected Print and the plans for that for the coming year?
Yeah, I'll step back a little bit because maybe some people are not familiar with the bigger picture. For enterprise and enterprise print, there are two options for Microsoft: the Windows Server, and then, of course, Universal Print Service, a cloud service. We care about both of these for customers, and we're improving both of these for customers. And like I said before, it's a lot of it is about security and quality and simplicity. And when you think about that, moving away from custom drivers is important. And we're working with the industry, we're working with partners one-on-one, and we're working together collectively with through MOPRIA, the standards body. And with the printers that are MOPRIA certified are increasing in the market, that's all goodness. So we will rely less and less on custom drivers. So that's the idea. So now we move the industry to be standards based. And then we have something called the PSA, print support apps. So the print support apps come in and add value on top of what is a standard level kind of capability. And that's where the partners create print support apps. And they have advanced features, and they could have AI features, like a lot of AI could be incorporated in the PSA. So now you have the base level capability included within the single driver rather than 30,000 or thousands of drivers, and then PSAs for more features capability. So now for whether it's server or service, the admin can control the environment by preventing drivers from being installed. And that's where the Windows Protected Print mode comes in. Right now, we created it. It's in Windows. We launched the latest versions with it being turned off by default. In the future, we'll turn it on by default. But we're working with customers, we're working with partners and the industry to get ready for that time. We're optimizing for security. Yeah.
So in terms of what's next for Universal Print, because you've made quite a few enhancements, could you maybe share what's next on the roadmap?
There's constantly new stuff, which we work basically based on customer demand. We work with customers, and we have a website where customers go in, ask for features and vote for features, and we look at that carefully. And we work with partners to see what they need, and we build accordingly. Yeah, we recently did the FedRAMP for the US government, and we're constantly improving and adding to that. Mac OS support, we heard that from customers. They're telling us we have some Mac OS devices in our environment, and we need a single solution that works for all users. So we enabled Mac OS to print through Universal Print, and we're seeing good adoption there and good feedback from customers about the experience. So we're happy about that. Universal Print Anywhere, the pull print capability. We're working on that. It's in public preview, and we're testing with customers, and we're getting ready to general availability on that. We did already the mobile QR code scan before. So now pull print and the QR code scan is really powerful. And then we're working with, right now, we're working with partners on the secure release through badge tab. and simplifying that development and deployment for that. And then there's logs and analytics that we're adding, alerts. All of that will be coming soon.
Okay, so it's becoming more fully featured, particularly on the security side for sure. So just to end, it's been really, great to have an update from you. But I think it'd be useful to share, like, if any customers are still perhaps on the fence about Microsoft Universal Print, or channel partners in the print industry don't fully understand the proposition around Universal Print. Have you got any recommendations or perhaps a key takeaway for why they should choose Microsoft Universal Print?
So for customers, it's, like I said, if they want to stay with servers offer a lot of flexibility, but they're mostly on-prem and they have to manage the servers. So that's good and it's great. We're happy with that and we'll continue to support them. If they want to migrate to like a cloud solution and reduce their on-prem footprint and simplify management, Universal Print is there. And also, it's really good for modern managed devices with Entra and all that. So that is great. And we're working with the partners to enhance both of these things, the server and the service. For the channel partners, it's really an interesting time because like the print industry is changing and customers are changing. So it's a lot about now understanding the security aspects, understanding, like, for example, looking at universal print ready printers and how those can sit in the environment for their customers with zero trust configuration and enabling flexibility with hybrid and remote printing and things like Windows protected print mode and how they can talk to the customers about that. There's a lot of security aspects that they can help educate the customers, and also the AI and how they can also incorporate that for the customers. So it moves away from like a printer and the printer speed and feed to system integration and talking about security and intelligence.
Yeah, so very much about the business value of modernizing the print environment. I think, as you say, that Microsoft have made a big investment in terms of updating the whole sort of printing subsystem, and it's still critical to many businesses in terms of printing. It's not going to disappear completely. So for organizations that are still printing to whatever extent, they need these secure cloud-based solutions.
Yeah, it's a really interesting space, honestly. Print it's been around forever, but now it's changing significantly.
Yes.
And it's going to the cloud, the security, the intelligence. It's all like new stuff coming into an established space. So it is really interesting.
Yeah, and I do think with the return to the office, over the course of 2025, with more organizations wanting their employees, back, perhaps 4 days a week rather than 3. And, potentially it's not like print volumes will completely bounce back to pre-pandemic levels, but I think there will be an opportunity there for MPS providers to almost reassess the print environment and make sure it's fit for purpose and they can future-proof it. And using technology like Universal Print will be really key for those organizations operating this kind of hybrid distributed team environment.
It's about like the enablement of print and all the services around that, rather than just focusing on the volume. From a volume point of view, there's still a need to print, whether we like it or not, there's still a need. And like I said, it's not about the authoring and collaboration, it's about process. And when we have customers, they can tell us, if I can't print, I can't ship. So for those customers, printing is crucial.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with printing, it's always had the reputation for being a real IT headache. And, as you were mentioning before, if you have sort of ease and simplicity for the end user as well as the IT admin, it means they can also focus on more strategic activities rather than just pure print-based support. So I think that's absolutely key as well. And, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your expertise and insights. And for our viewers and listeners, if they want more information, we'll put the links in the show notes. But thank you so much again, Issa, for joining me today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining today's episode of In the Spotlight with QuoCirca. For more information, please go to quocirca.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.